Examinations. We have just started with the Node.js technology introduction. In that introduction, we got to see the core concepts of the Node.js, in which the event loop is one such different phenomena when you compare with the traditional web servers. Then it is having some advantages as well as it is having some disadvantages also. But where it is generally used is for the highly scalable applications. So that means whenever you want to create highly scalable application for your web server, for your web applications, maybe that can be a API server, or that can be a normal website, or that can be uh, some some services which you want to expose. So anything which actually having some input output operations continuously operated on the disk, okay, or from getting the data from the databases. So in these situations, you can safely take the Node.js because it is having one unique feature that is called as non-blocking output. So in this non-blocking, what happens? Simply the incoming request is going to be put on uh, a event loop stack. So thereby the physical file system, maybe the database interaction, maybe some third-party libraries, whatever it is, having some minimal amount of time to fetch the data. So that can be safely given to that hardware. Okay, so thereby you are not hurrying up with the database or some resources. Simply, it will be reverting you back with the whatever the information that you have asked after some time. So that is the main advantage of having the Node.js. How this is happening? This is purely happening on the basis of this event loop. Okay, so this is the event loop mechanism through which the asynchronous calls can be easily made. So these are called as callbacks. So the asynchronous way of doing the things can be taken for providing the best scalability for your application. So that means earlier with the traditional web applications, with the same hardware resources, maybe you are scaling up your application up to some 1 million. Maybe that may be the maximum supported scalability of your application. But on the same infrastructure, if you have implemented on the Node.js, it can actually support maybe some 100 millions. So in that way, it is highly scalable when you compare with the traditional web servers, the resources providing capabilities. Okay, so the traditional web servers will be having some limitations because all these are normally having the synchronous way of doing the things. But whereas in the Node.js, this is completely asynchronous. How it is being completely asynchronous? Event loop is also one loop which is continuously monitoring the inputs which are coming from the request and the request format. There, after some time, whenever the file system is free or whenever the database is free, at that time it is going to take the incoming request, and after some time, the operation, whenever it is getting completed, the callback will be triggered again back to the request. So in the form of a response. So what is blocking and what is non-blocking? The blocking means simply whenever there is an incoming request for your resource, that particular thread is completely operated for a file input output operations. Maybe the file is busy. Okay, so it has to wait. It has to wait till that particular file is again available for the thread. Okay, so because this particular file is actually being operated by another thread, so till that particular previous thread was not releasing the file input output operations, that means it may be writing the things into the file. So till that time, the thread is being handled synchronously. After that, only the next thread is going to take this particular file input output operation for doing the whatever the things that it is to perform. So then in the asynchronous input output operation, similarly the thread is there, but the request is sent to the file input output only. So now you can see the file input output operations are actually the dependency of the first thread itself. Whenever that particular thread was actually looking up to that information, it receives that information after some time. So it receives that information after some time. So that means the file input output operations are not at all blocking, the uh, the hardware resources. Okay, so that can be file, that can be database, that can be anything. So this is the advantage of having the blocking or non-blocking. And see the data when you see the Node.js programming, you can see first of all the blocking way of doing the things is also possible. Here you can see the simple JavaScript. Here you can see the simple JavaScript code statements where this is a variable and this variable is given with some file stream read file sync. This is a supported method in which you are going to pass the uh, text file. Okay, so this can be any text file which is supported. Now what happens is, so completely the first line is getting executed till this particular file is not available or it is not opening completely. The next statement will not run. So this is how the blocking way of the things are getting implemented. So then what we are doing here is we are simply printing the data which is available in this test.txt. Okay, so simply we are having these two lines of statements for showing the blocking way of doing the things. Okay, so things are actually getting blocked for this input output operations coming are going to this test.txt. Okay, so now the statement is read file sync. Sync means synchronously it has to read the file from this given path. So when this particular file is opened, then only the next statement is getting executed. So this is how the blocking way of the things actually getting implemented. Now see the second one, which is non-blocking one. Here the syntax is completely different. Here you can see this is completely different to the synchronous way of doing the things. Here you can see fs.read file, and here you are providing the test.txt and comma. The second argument is nothing but a function which is used for handling the callbacks. So which is used for handling the callbacks. So fs.read file means fs.read file is actually a completely asynchronous way of doing the things, which is completely different from this one. This is read file sync in the previous example, and in the current example, this is only read file. So that means Node.js by default supports the asynchronous way of doing the things by this common methods like read file, okay, write file. So these are the common methods, and anything that you are doing from the Node.js is nothing but doing it in asynchronous manner. Okay, so doing it in completely asynchronous manner. So what you are given, the first parameter is nothing but the file path. Second parameter is, or second argument is function, which is a callback. It is given with again two parameters. One is for the error. If anything is happening, some error is occurring, then it can report that error. Otherwise, you can get the data, but not immediately after some time. Okay. So what you want to do whenever this particular callback is generated, simply you want to print this by using this console.log data. So the data is nothing but whatever you are getting from this test.txt. Okay. So the syntax may be appearing somewhat complicated to you because it's not the normal way of doing the coding while you do for the normal C++ or Java programs. It is something different, and the way of doing the things are pretty much in this way in Node.js. So everything is naturally implemented in the way of callbacks. So normally everything is being implemented usually in a callback mechanisms. Okay. You can see some differences of execution. There is a blocking and second one is non-blocking. So this is a separator. Blocking is given with the same kind of code which we have seen a couple of slides back. Okay, everything is synchronous. First, what you are doing is we are opening up with this particular file. Particular file. Okay, so this file is after opening this particular file, we are providing this information and simply we want to print that information. Similarly, where user2, again it is given with some 321 and this is getting printed. Okay, so when you combine these two, it is going to print some addition in this particular result. So this is a normal way of doing the things you do generally in the traditional programming. This is mostly the synchronous way of doing the things. And what happens, first of all, it is waiting for the user one. Okay, so when that user one is actually opened up with this particular file, get user saying this is a file. Okay, so this file is actually given with some method which is actually passed with some input. Then actually it is receiving that input, and then again it is waiting for the second input from the user2. Again it is processing that information, and finally it is printing that information. Okay, so that means till this user2 is not called, यहाँ पे call कर रहा है. Okay, so till this user2 is not called, this particular thread is actually in wait mode. Okay, so this particular thread is in wait mode, and it takes some amount of time. So this can be some 10 milliseconds or anything. Okay, so here you can see it is taking till 6 milliseconds of time to completely print this sum of information of user 1 plus 2. Okay, or this can be something else. So this is normal sum 1 plus 2. So 3 is getting printed here. But what you want to see here is all these are different tasks, but all these are executed in a synchronous manner, one by one only, in a linear way, in this order only they are getting implemented. And when you compare with the second one, that is non-blocking, okay, so the same thing we are doing, but now we have used our callbacks. So get user is the same file which we want to use, but here is the second parameter is nothing but the callback. In that callback we are printing whenever this user one is ready. Okay, so similarly second one is also mapped in that way, and third one is also same. It is nothing but simply printing 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Okay, so what is the difference? The difference is the way of implementing the coding in Node.js. Then what is the advantage? See here, starting get user for user one. So user one is just given with the instruction to open that particular file, and meanwhile if anything is written before, if anything is written from user one before that particular data is generated, you can see user two is also called. Okay, it has not waited till this user one is not printed on the console. Simply after invoking this first method, it directly gone to the second method and then printed the sum of the 1 plus 2 whatever the value on the console. Okay, so then after some time you can see some timeout is there. After some time user one is opened, by that time it has read that content and then it is printing, and immediately by that meanwhile the user two is also ready with that information. It has simply printed with that information. But whereas print sum is printed before that, because it is not having any file input output operations. So this particular code is not having any file input output operation, so that's why it is not dependent on the hardware. So directly it printed on the first place, then only after some time the user one is printed, which is coming from there, then the third one is printed, which is user two. Okay, in that way the things are, everything is happening parallelly, and when you see that the entire execution is completed by some 3 milliseconds of time, whereas in this case it has nearly taken some 6 milliseconds of time. So that means, so nearly 50% of the time we actually saved for the processing. And not only that, whatever is the information which is not pending from the server side is immediately available as a resource to the requestee. So that is the best advantage we can have. So that's why we have a greater scalability whenever you are taking this this Node.js approach, because everything is you implemented using the callbacks. Okay, so this is a callback, and similarly this is also a callback. So these callbacks are the most important things to understand in the Node.js. So most of the times you will be finding the code in this way only. So non-blocking feature we are certainly going to use in every part of the in every module of this Node.js programs. So the advantage we can clearly see. So this is a sample comparison of however the synchronous and asynchronous way of doing the things. We can see clearly it is nearly taking some 5 to 6 milliseconds of time, whereas the same program with the same logic implemented in a different way is completed in less than 3 milliseconds. So that is the advantage we are getting from Node.js. The technique is very simple. We are going to use the callbacks in all the Node.js programs or the modules, whichever you are going to create for your applications. So you need to take these callback functions and your application will be scalable. But suppose you want to do the things in this way, then naturally the performance penalty will be there. It is not like that you cannot code in this way, in the blocking way of or the synchronous way of doing the things, but it is also possible, but that is up to the programmer whether he should be having the performance penalty for the scalability. Okay, the better approach is to go for the best paradigm of non-blocking feature. The scalability is also improved, the responsiveness of your application is also highly improved, and you are going to have a very good applications out of these particular non-blocking implementations. Okay. So non-blocking input output servers do nothing but input output. So what is the common feature in all the servers? That can be a database server, or that can be a normal web server, or that can be some file system based server or FTP server. Anything is nothing but doing the input output operations continuously. Okay. So scripts waiting on the input output request degrades the performance. Suppose you are running one FTP server. Okay. So many connections are actually open, and one particular thread is hooked onto a particular file abc.txt. Then again another thread wants to open that txt file again at the same time. Then till that particular first file is not getting released by the thread one, your program may not be accessing that second from the second thread of the same file. So this is not normally what normally happens in the every input output operations. So servers do what? It is nothing but continuously waiting on the input output request, which actually degrades the performance, which is actually the performance penalty for these particular servers. So to avoid the blocking, Node make use of this event-driven nature of JavaScript. By attaching callbacks to input output requests. Okay, so how the Node.js is actually doing this is, it is simply making use of the event-driven nature of the JavaScript. Okay, and by using the callback mechanisms, all the input output requests are somewhat made as pending. Okay, so they are going to be certainly operated after some time, but when that thing happens, we cannot understand. We cannot say at this time it is going to certainly give with that result. It may be giving the result after some time, but it will not be immediate. So scripts waiting on input output waste no space because they get popped off the stack when their non-input output related code finishes executing. So scripts waiting on input output waste no space because they get popped off the stack when their non-input output related code finishes executing. So that means the input output operations actually happening, and that makes the things which are somewhat slower, but whenever there is a thing which is not relevant with the input output operations, like with the case of the printing of this particular sum, they had to inevitably wait for this particular statement is getting executed. So that is what the drawback we are having. Okay, so they have to wait. Suppose this particular statement in this code, it has to wait till these two methods are not getting executed completely, even though it do not have any input output dependencies. It do not have any input output dependencies, still it has to wait because it is running in synchronous way. Okay, it is operated in a linear way of code programming. So that's why that is the drawback that we are having. Not like a traditional thread-based input-output, Node.js using single thread as a native JavaScript. So everything is basically running from a single thread in the Node.js. It is not activating some multiple threads in the process. So that's why we are having only a single thread which is completely looking after these input-output operations. In the thread base, you must allocate maximal thread in your web server, and every thread will execute one task in one moment. If there another request will be executed after first request is done. Okay, so normally what happens in the thread base means in the multi-threading environment or in the synchronous way of doing the things, maximum what you can do is you can allocate some maximum number of threads that can be kicked off in your web server's memory, and thereby every thread is actually implementing one task at any given moment. So even you are working in a multi-threading environment, the single thread can only handle a single resource at any single point of time. So thereby your all requests appear to be parallel processing, but somewhat they are limited to their again input output operations for each of their given thread. Node.js thread can execute other requests without waiting. So what is the advantage in the Node.js? It can process the next statement without waiting for the thread release, because actually the thread is not doing the thing. It is simply invoking. It is simply kicking off some invocation on the input output operations. So it will return the data in the form of callbacks. Okay, so that will be the only field when the request has done. So the task of this Node.js is to simply inform the input output resource to give me this information, and that's done. Now the callback mechanism is responsible for getting hold of whatever the response and simply conveying to that calling thread. Okay, so that is how the things are happening in this Node.js server's memory. Callback that provides is not always the data; it can be an exception also. So here one clause is every time the server may not be returning with the asked data. Sometimes it can be returning the exceptions also. Suppose you have asked some input output operations from a database server, and the database server at that particular point of time was not actually connected. Okay, so basically your program is expecting this data. Okay, but some exception has generated. So after some time, the callback has given only the exception. So sometimes you can get the exceptions also. Every time it is not the case, like every time you are going to get the data only. So that's why in our callbacks, you can see in this method, we are passing on two arguments. First one is error as part of an argument, and second one is data. So that means whenever there is any data, this particular argument we are going to use, and whenever there is any error, we are going to this particular argument. So in that way, the things are actually used in this particular callback. So this is the callback function. So okay, so this particular callback function we have to write, and automatically Node.js will be doing the things for our side, so that this particular parallel processing can be done without any problems. So here is an example that is given, input output example, which is used for a particular program. You can see this is a PHP code block. Here we have taken one SQL statement, select star from particular table, and whenever there is any result, this has to be processed. Okay, so the while is actually processing that particular information. Okay, and which is nothing but doing the things in a synchronous way. Okay, so this is how we can do the things in a synchronous way. Whereas in this Node.js, you can see the same query is implemented here, but we have written the callback. We have written the callback as the second argument in this method query. MySQL.query. In the first argument, we have provided the statement, SQL statement. And in the second argument, we have provided the callback. And what is the advantage? You don't have to wait. Okay. So it may take some couple of milliseconds, or it may be taking some 100 to 500 milliseconds of time, so that it entirely not getting the data from the database. So whenever that particular result is generated, at that time your this particular query is able to return back with that information to the caller. So this is how the things can be implemented in the Node.js. So this is the disadvantage of, this is the difference between the synchronous and this is some callback mechanism. Okay, so these two are completely different. Only what you need to understand is the syntax is in this way we are going to use. The syntax is, this is called as callback function. So the callback functions you need to use in every part of method or every module that you are going to write in the Node.js. And we are going to see some examples also. So things will get much faster when you are not waiting on the resources. Just continue the executing, and whenever the data is returned from the hardware or from the resource, it will be intimated back to the program. Ready? So when to use it? So where this particular Node.js is highly used for the advantage it actually offers. Okay. So first one is the chat-based applications, because chat-based applications are basically writing and reading the information continuously on some either on that can be on a disk or some flat files, or that can be in the database. Okay, so that needs continuous input-output operation. So that's why the chat-based applications, messaging-based applications, you can easily write, and you can scale up your applications also if you are using the Node.js. Not only that, the real-time applications, streaming servers, intelligent proxies, high concurrency applications, and communicational hubs, some web applications, WebSocket servers, coordinators, anything which is dealing completely with input-output operations highly. At that time, we can safely take the Node.js, because the Node.js facilitates non-blocking feature. So thereby your application response is actually improved, getting improved. Okay. Then file package.json. This is one particular file which is going to be created whenever you are going to use this Node program. Okay, so whenever you are going to write some coding, first of all, the package.json is a JSON file. Actually, you can see this is nothing but a JSON file. So this JSON file is having some information. You can see from this JSON file the name of the project, what is the version, what is the dependencies, what are the dependencies, their information, then some description and some main file, license, all these are attached. Okay, you can see what are the dependencies, you can see clearly. So the dependencies are these packages, and what are the keywords, you can put them under the keywords section, and what is the main entry file that you can put under the main index.js, and what is the name of the project. So all these essential information of a particular project can be safely written into package.json. And what is JSON? JSON is nothing but again a JavaScript file. Okay, so JavaScript object notation, and that JSON is simply compatible with the Node.js. So file package.json is the first thing that you want to create in your Node application, and that we are going to see in our programs when we do that. Then comes with the Node modules. Node is having some ready-made pre-built modules that you want to attach to your application. Whenever you are doing some programming, you want to take advantage of some already created, tested, scalable packages which are open source, and you can take the advantages of those packages for your program simply by attaching them to your project. Okay, so those are called as modules. So what are Node modules? You can create single purpose functions in JavaScript, but unlike in Java, Ruby, and Perl, you have no way to bundle multiple functions into a cohesive module or package that can be imported and exported. Okay, so we can create functions in JavaScript, but we do not have the functionality like to use the classes. So they are nothing but this particular term. So we cannot create the classes, or you want to create some interfaces, you want to bind some contract. So all these are not that much possible in JavaScript. And only thing what we can do is we can write some single purpose functions by using this particular language. And there should be a way by which we want to neatly import and export the content for some external programs or for your own programs. Okay, so you want to import some functionality, or you can export some functionality to the external packages or for the external programs also. So all these things are generally implemented by using these modules. Okay, so this is a module or package, whatever the name that you can give. They are nothing but some JavaScript functions that you are creating, again, so that they can be imported into another module or into another package. So first, any JavaScript you include by using the script element is loaded into the global namespace. With modules, you can sandbox the imported functionality in a locally namespaced variable. Second, and more crucially, you can explicitly declare your dependencies with modules, whereas with the script element, you cannot. So if you have dealt with this web application development, normally in the header file, in the header section of the HTML, you have to open these script blocks. So in those script blocks, what you are generally doing is you are simply putting up some JavaScript code. So what is the JavaScript code? It is nothing but some common functions that you want to implement, or you can declare some wars. Okay, so those wars are nothing but the if you are declaring that in the script blocks, they can be the part of the global namespace, and whenever you are declaring that in a function, then they can be the locally scoped variables. So in that way, that can be the difference. So this is somewhat same with the C and Java languages, or whatever you have learned in your traditional OOPS programs. So yeah, you can have a global scope, or you can have a local scope for your variables. But whenever you are having this particular script element, as a result, importing a module A transitively imports dependent modules B and C also. As your application gains complexity, transitive dependency management quickly becomes a vital requirement. So that means if you want to import something, whatever the module that you have declared, you are going to have all those variables, all those functionalities getting exposed to your particular modules. And that means whatever the dependency modules that you want to implement for your project, so all those variables scopes will be imported into your particular module, but which is not possible in this script element. Okay, so this is not at all possible in the script way of doing the things. So as application gains complexity, transitive dependency management quickly becomes a vital requirement. So thereby, your modules, whenever you are attaching in a high number, in high numbers, suppose your application is using some 500 dependent modules, then quickly the management becomes very, very crucial, because all these variables are exposed in a global space, and at that time some name clashes or some scope visibilities may be somewhat giving the problems. So these kind of managements we need to tackle, because whenever we are having some high number of complexity for your applications. So how many modules are there? There are so many lakhs of modules are there, and day by day the modules count is also getting increased. You can see the stats. On an average, 728 packages per day are added in this particular npmjs.org. So npm.js is a collective collaboration of all the modules or the packages from which you can download the modules or the packages into your application. Okay, so we will do that in the program whenever we are writing that code. So npm is the package manager for JavaScript. Okay, and these statistics are of last year, like February 2020. So the count of modules are getting incremented day by day, and already these are in several lakhs, and the popularity is also getting increased day by day for this node also. So thereby the number of packages are also highly increasing. So how to install any module into your Node.js? Basically, you need to put this keyword npm node package manager. Then this is the command install, and this is the name of the module that you want to import into your application. Okay, so npm install provide the module name. Then after importing that module in this way, so that suppose you want to import this http module. Okay, so what do you want to write? Npm install http. So this is the module name here. So you are going to write npm install http. So this module is uh, getting downloaded from this npmjs.org dynamically at that time. And after that, you can use that module by writing your code in this way, where http, this can be any keyword, not only http, this can be any keyword, where http is equal to require. So require is the keyword and http is the module name. So similarly, if you want to import the file stream, so where fs is equal to require fs. If you want to install the express, this is also a package actually. So express is a package which we have to inevitably use in the main stack development. So where express is equal to require express. So in that way, we are going to include our modules into your applications so that all those functionalities that are available in the given packages will be coming into your project in this variable format. So this is one kind of object. So this particular HTTP is actually containing all the features of this particular HTTP module. So in that way, you can directly operate on this HTTP in the further lines of statement in the Node.js. So that is how we are going to create the node-based applications in the main stack. So modules are like packages, so they can be implemented by downloading from the npm repository. So this repository is having some lakhs of freely distributable packages, and you don't want to create a basic functionality which is already available and created by somebody else, and it was tested and it was foolproof. So then there is no need to recreate that functionality again and again. So what is the best thing is to by downloading that package and integrating into your application, so that you are able to get that particular feature or functionality working in your web application. So that is mostly what it is offered by the modules. Okay, so we just came to an understanding that these packages like HTTP package and file stream package, or it can be an express module. So these modules you have to first of all you have to refer by this particular statement, and then after referring these packages, you will be capturing them into these kind of objects. Then you are able to freely access those modules functionalities in your web application. So this is how we can operate on the modules. And some of the popular modules are, first one is, it is very popular, Express, then Mocha, Restify, Jade, Socket, Redis, underscore. So all these are some of the popular modules. Like you can see Mongoose. This is used for database, MongoDB database access. So in that way, every module offers something, that particular functionality you can have integrated in your applications. Okay, and Node.js is offering npm modules, and mostly the packages or modules are freely distributable, and only few of the modules may be offered some with some payment. Okay, uh, then why we need to take the Node.js is, first of all, in a normal process cycle, the web server, while processing the request, will have to wait for the input output operations, and thus blocking the next request to be processed. That means, as we came to know, that in the normal process life cycle, every thread has to basically has to acquire the incoming request. Then all the input output operations are to be handled by that particular thread, and thus actually it is blocking the next incoming request. Okay, so it is blocking the incoming request. So Node.js process each request as events. The server doesn't wait for the input output operation to complete, while it can handle other requests at the same time. So what is happening with the Node.js is, the server actually doesn't wait for the input output operations to complete, because it is basically not dependent on the hardware actually as such, because everything is processed in form of events. Okay, so everything is processed in form of events, so thereby no direct relation with the input output operations are handled at the Node.js level. So when the input output operation of first request is completed, it will call back the server to complete the request. That means whenever the output operation, even though it is taking for some few milliseconds of time, whenever it is getting completed, the server is going to give the call back, so that it is completing the request after a few milliseconds of the time. So that means it is completely independent of the input output operations directly, which are happening in the normal traditional way of having a thread based models. Okay, so that is the most advantage feature that we can consider under Node.js. Also, we can create some CRUD operations also. That means when you are exposing some services, the API services, you can write with Node.js applications also, like with the case of other technologies. Basically, you can post something. That means you can write something onto the database or onto the flat files. So that is basically called as create, or otherwise you can simply fetch that information. So that HTTP supported verb is actually get. That means whenever we are using the get, we are nothing but reading the content. We are not actually writing the content onto the database or any other flat files. Similarly, we can put the information. So put is generally used for updating some partial information of already, whichever is already created. So we are going to modify by using the put. So that is a verb which is available in the HTTP. So with this put, we can modify the things which are already in place. Okay. So finally, we can similarly delete the contents also, which are already available. We can delete the information by putting this particular verb called as delete. So in that way, HTTP methods which are available, post, get, put, delete, all these operations are supported, and they can be done easily by using the Node.js technology. And we are going to see with all these implementations when we do the coding. Okay. Then, so for starting up with the things, we can have a simple directory where you are going to place all of your files. And first of all, after creating this particular directory, so this is how we can create the directory, and you can go back to that particular directory. You can navigate to that directory, and then the very first command that you want to execute is npm init. Okay, so npm init is for the initialization of your web application in the Node.js, and it's what it will do is, it prompts you to have some description of your project, or some version, some author information. So everything it will try to capture in this particular some JSON file. So that initialization we can do by giving this command called as npm init. Okay, so this is how we can start up with the things. to create any web application. Then after that, you can have a simple code which is looking like this. HTTP create server, and using a callback function, you can simply say that to provide the response with some data. Okay, so this is my data, and basically this server is going to be listened on this 8081 port number. So in that way, we can create some Node.js server which is picked up in the memory, and after that your application is available in this format. Okay, so if you are working from the local host, you can directly put like http colon localhost, then you have to call this port number wherever this node.js is actually running. Okay, so in that way we are going to create the server. So after creating the server, the node is actually looking up for your incoming request, and accordingly it can provide the responses. So this is a simple response that is going to be emitted right now. So this simple response is nothing but it will print a hello world on the web browser. Okay. So when you give that npm init, basically it will ask the project name, whatever the version, then any description that you want to attach to this project, then what is the main entry point into this application. Okay, so there are any dependencies or not, and if they are, what are they? So all these information will be initially captured by the Node.js. But if you are not initializing in the first place, if you are not giving with that information initially also, later on you can open this package.json file. So this is actually available in the package.json file, and you can open up this file in any code editor, and accordingly you can do the modification. Suppose you want to change the author information, or you want to attach the license information. So after creating this application also, at any point of time you can go back to this package.json file, and you can you can modify the things as per your requirements. Okay, so but why this is required is upon compilation, the node is going to check what are the dependencies and what is the version, everything it is going to be checked, and accordingly it will be processed by the Node.js. So these are some kind of settings that you can treat for the Node.js application. Okay. So after creating that initial package.json file, then how to run this basic application? You have to first of all create a file with this name app.js. Okay, so whatever that can be the name of the file, that can be index.js, or that can be app.js or main.js, that can be any name, but it will be having the initial server code which is looking like this. Okay, and where your main entry point is there. Okay, so after that go to the command prompt and put node and give the file name. So as soon as you give this, the server will be running, and you can see the message which will be looking like this. And to test whether the Node.js is actually running or not, you can throw a request to the server by using the port number which is given in the server's server coding. Okay, so here it is 8081, but you can put your own port numbers like 3000 or 8080, or it can be some 8001. So any freely available port you can put, and accordingly when you are going to call from localhost by putting that port number, the server is going to be getting that request, and accordingly it will be giving back you the response. So whatever the response that you have given, it will be given back like this is the response that you have given in the format of response. So that will be captured, and accordingly it will be displayed on the browser. So this is how we can start the server, and you can request a resource to that Node.js server, and accordingly you can get back the response also. Okay, so to actually code in Node.js, basically it is nothing but a JavaScript coding. So n number of text edits are available freely, and you can take the choiced one or whichever the preferred one from your side. and most of the companies and most of the popular usage was by this Visual Studio Code, but it is not limited to those text editors. These text editors are mostly popular, and accordingly you can use your own text editors like Atom or CK Editor or Sublime Text. Okay, so that depends on the user choice in which text editor they have to create the coding. Text editors. So one programmer has to first of all try out with the available text editors, and according to their choice they can code on in that particular text editor. So this is how we can start up with the things by using the Node.js.